freezer meal. I have frozen shrimp, frozen peas, frozen corn, and I'll make a stir fry out of these. This is a lot of frozen peas. I got this at the beginning of the lockdown, and now I have to live with the consequence of it. So I've been trying to find ways to cook this stuff. But I mean, peas are good. I like peas. And here I have the trinity of aromatics: ginger, garlic, and shallot. And I have some mirin, Japanese rice cooking wine, some chili powder, and some cornstarch, with which I am going to make a slurry. So the first thing I'm going to do is obviously to thaw the shrimp, because the corn and the peas can go straight in. So I want to tap this a little bit to make sure, kind of separate. I want about 200 grams of shrimp. It's about 181. One more. Close enough. So I'm going to take this over here and let this hang out for 15 minutes. And now I'm measuring the amount of corn that I'm going to put in. This is like a one-pot dish, and this is going to be all I'm having for dinner today. So this is kind of like the rice component. So I'll go with, oh my god, that's a lot of rice. I'm going to go with 300 grams. That's close enough. Okay, cool. So these guys are defrosted. I pulled them from the colander and patted them dry. Now I'm going to do a quick marinade. Good amount of salt. Put a teaspoon of olive oil. Put a couple teaspoons of mirin. About a teaspoon of chili powder. And some pepper. It's pretty impossible to grind with one hand, but yeah, I'm doing it. This is very high budget, very high production value stuff. You can use your hands. I'm just using a spoon. Oh, almost forgot. This stuff, cornstarch. This is used quite extensively in like marinades for protein in Chinese cooking, as I struggle to get the lid off. This stuff just kind of brings everything together and creates a nice little coating. Just a teaspoon of that stuff. Save that for later, for sauce making. Just mix that in. Okay, might want a little bit more of this stuff. So I got my hand in there and looks much better. I'm just gonna sit here while I cut up my aromatics. So probably like 10-15 minutes. I cut the ginger and shallot into rough matchsticks because this is how my grandma does it. Although she has way superior knife skills, so this is a shame. And for the garlic, I just smashed and peeled and roughly chopped them. So this is all ready to go. And veg, shrimp, condiments, wok. Turn the heat on to the highest possible because this is induction, and you know, for stir fries you want it pretty hot, so I'm gonna give this a few minutes to heat up. So here we have a smoking hot pan into which I'm adding this amount of olive oil. At this point the pan got pretty hot, which is actually pretty ideal. And now I'm dumping in the shrimp, or I'm attempting to add the shrimp. Tossy toss, as Brad Leone would say. And surprise, surprise, more tossing. Because I don't know, I just wanted to show that I could toss. Okay, thank God, no more tossing. The shrimp goes out into the same bowl. Food hygiene is just not an issue for me, I guess. Now the pan is properly up to temperature. I'm going to add some more olive oil and swirl it around. That goes in there. Now the pinnacle of cinematography. Magically the aromatics are in there. Now I'm stirring them around, obviously, to bloom the spices, the aromatics, before adding in the corn and the frozen peas. So here we go. 400 grams of vegetables. That's the most amount of vegetables I'll ever eat in a meal. And now some more tossing action, just because. But seriously, tossing stuff like this actually distributes the heat more evenly, I think. So there is a point to it. Now, this is very important. I'm seasoning the vegetables very liberally. And with this amount of anything in the pan, you need this amount of salt. It looks like a lot of salt, but I'm going to taste it and it's going to taste good because I made it. But anyways, a good amount of chili powder, followed by more tossing. I think this video is sponsored by wok tossing or something like that. Now stir to combine. Back on the heat. Now the shrimp goes back in. Now I'm adding some distilled white vinegar. I think the dish needs some acidity. Now some more, stirring. This is a stir fry, duh. And now I'm tasting to see if this needs more seasoning. Turns out I'm a genius, so I didn't put any more salt in it. And here comes the part where I messed up big time. So I'm taking a ladle and adding about a teaspoon of cornstarch into the ladle. Now the plan was to, drizzle some water in it, make a slurry, and then spray it on. But clearly here I had too much water, so this thing was a mess. And then I was trying to put it down, but it just started to tip over, so that happened. And now I'm furiously trying to evenly distribute the definitely not homogeneous cornstarch slurry kind of thingy. But it actually turned out okay. So I'm pretty proud of that. And of course, you got to keep tossing. And that's it. The stir fry is done. Now that was what we call in the YouTube community a total disaster. It's never a good idea to shoot a POV cooking video when you're doing stir fries. It just doesn't work. But let's see how the food tastes. Seasoned pretty properly. Now the shrimp. You can't go wrong with shrimp. And a little bit of spice. I think with shrimp, it is very important that you don't overcook it. And I added a fair amount of cornstarch in the marinade, so it kind of forms a shell on the outside of the shrimp, which protects the inside from overcooking. And the shrimp tastes pretty snappy, like it's almost crunchy, but the inside is not overcooked, so that's pretty nice. Whoo! I cooked the shrimp and the vegetables separately because they don't cook at the same rate. Now the corn and the peas cook roughly at the same rate. So normally you would prepare the cornstarch slurry, so cornstarch and water, ready, and you would have that by, right by the stove. And when it's ready to go, you give it a stir and you drizzle that around the dish, and it kind of binds the sauce together. But that requires two hands. And I'm kind of handicapped when I'm shooting cooking videos. I only have one hand available. But I mean, it turned out okay. There are a few substitutions you can make if you want to cook this. You can omit the corn altogether, and it'll be basically a 2-ingredient stir fry, and you can serve that over rice. The mirin component, the alcohol component, obviously mirin is pretty hard to find, but you could easily substitute it with white wine, Chinese cooking wine like Shaoxing wine. So this was good. This is good stuff. The main ingredients are all from the freezer. If you want, you could just, use those 3 ingredients and just do a quick stir fry with peas, corn, and shrimp with salt and pepper. That would also taste good. This is more of a well thought out stir fry with garlic, shallot, ginger, and a quick shrimp marinade. This is that's all I have. Shout out to The Office, greatest show ever made, and I'm out.